Picture this. The year is 2012. You're an 8th grader who's just hanging out with your friends in one of your guy friends' rooms, talking about video games, TV shows, and the subject of anime gets brought up. Now, you've never watched anime before, but you just brought up how you're getting into zombie shows, so your friend decides to put on Netflix and show you an anime they think you may like. And all of a sudden, you're being shown this. Yeah, High School of the Dead was definitely a interesting intro to anime. High School of the Dead is an anime produced by Madhouse and directed by Tetsuro Araki, adapted from the manga written by Daisuke Sato and illustrated by Shoji Sato. The plot of it is super simple. A group of high schoolers, plus a child, school nurse, and a dog are surviving an outbreak that's turned people into zombies, running into new horrors constantly and trying to survive per usual with zombie-related media. This aired originally on July 5th, 2010, and the English dub aired on March 10th, 2011. So of course middle school me watched the dub and was hooked on anime ever since then, always viewing High School of the Dead in a great view and on a high pedestal due to nostalgia. However, at my old crippling age of 25, I decided that I really wanted to rewatch High School of the Dead to see if it was good as I remember it being, because little middle school me thought this was the sickest and coolest anime that she would ever see in her life. And, well...
How are you ever going to make it through the year? Gas break, and there's the clutch.
I like turtles.
I've gotta pee.
You're drooling.
Well, it's not quite as good as I remember it being, but it is a so bad it's good little nightmare, and that is what I'm here to talk about today. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about why High School of the Dead is pretty awful, but at least worth a watch because of that. And what better place to start than the only necessary background information you're gonna need about this. As mentioned earlier, the show is about a group of high schoolers. Takashi Kumaro, the edgy main character. Rei Miyamoto, love interest number 1. Saiko Busujima, love interest number 2. That's Psycho. Saya Takagi, girl boss extraordinaire. And Kota Hirano, Japan's most wanted school shooter. Then we have Nurse Shizuka Marikawa, who for the sake of consistency I'll be calling Nurse Tits, because, well, you'll see. And Arisu Marasato, the child of the group. And also Zero, who's a dog that you barely see in this, and I'll just say right now that the puppy is alive and well at the end of the season, so you can exhale and relax. And now that you know the only characters that really matter, because trust me, there are more, they just don't matter at all, let's get into the show itself. High School of the Dead begins with Takashi, Rei, and a boy named Hisashi running around on the roof, killing zombies, and giving us the key features of this anime: boob physics, and panty shots. Because what's a good anime from back in the day without the sexualization of every woman possible, especially teenagers?
FBI, open up!
Takashi then describes my first thoughts completely for my first watch of this since I was a puny little middle schooler.
What the fuck's going on?
We then get to hear the literal banger of an intro song that shows the main characters in the most, choice ways possible? Yeah, so I'm gonna let you guys know right now that if panty shots, jiggle physics, and overall lewdness is just not your cup of tea, then this anime is definitely not for you. Because don't let the action and horror tags fool you. There may be a little bit of action, but the real horror to this anime is seeing just how many panty shots they could throw in there before the viewer asks, why is there no sex in this hentai? Which this isn't a hentai, it's just very titty and panty centric, which you will very soon come to realize. After the intro, we get to see a flashback of earlier this day, where our edgy boy is remembering when Rei told him they'd get married one day when they're older, how he met Hisashi, and how Rei started to fall for Hisashi, which we can clearly tell because of her little antennas going off. Edgelord 69's little daydreaming is ended by Takagi pulling up and calling him a mopey little bitch, and how, unlike him, she can actually blow off class because she's just so smart, unlike Takashi. After Takagi goes off on him for being pathetic, we find out that Rei actually broke up with Takashi, but that little mopey session is cut off by a dude slamming against the gate and adults going to confront him. Takashi watching as one of the adults gets bit by the strange man and proceeds to go after the other other adults. Takashi, realizing that something's fucky, runs to class to drag Rei out, her protesting because, he's literally not telling her anything, and Takashi just smacks the fuck out of her to get her to listen to him, and then proceeds to not tell her what's going on until they start walking. Because clearly we need to get from point A to point B quicker, so why not explain what we've seen while walking instead of, by other students? Because let's face it, those other students don't matter unless they've got screen time. Hisashi, who I completely forgot to mention is there with them walking out, is the only one with 2 functioning brain cells and makes them all stop so they can get weapons if Takashi's serious about the whole "they're zombies" bit. Everyone except himself, of course.
I've got a black belt in karate.
That'll surely be useful and protect him. Rei decides to call the police and realizes that the line is busy as shit. And then Takashi's suspicions are confirmed with an announcement being made on the intercom, getting a brief glimpse that Takagi and Hirano are going to be together during the chaos soon to unfold. Because of the very obvious chaos in the school, Hisashi says that they should leave through the management building due to the classroom buildings being a complete mess. Rei telling Takashi to just go with it.
Hisashi is right. Shut up and do what he says.
All right, fine.
So I choose to allow my girlfriend to sleep with other men.
A teacher crosses the group's path, Hisashi noticing that they are totally a zombie and just doesn't tell Rei in time, so she almost literally gets groped by a zombie. Because zombies don't want brains in this show. They want titties. Hisashi tells Rei to stab her teacher. Rei's faltering gives us panty shots aplenty before making her snap into bad bitch mode and stab the zombie. Which doesn't really do anything. Hisashi tries to be a hero since, he has a black belt. And that leads to a zombie pulling an exorcist and biting our black belted savior who totally didn't need a weapon.
I've got a black belt in karate.
After Rei starts crying, Takashi finally does something, which leads to the teacher becoming a Jackson Pollock painting. Despite being bitten, Hisashi still leads everyone to the roof where they take in the insanity that they can see all around them outside. And Hisashi talks about how if it's bad out here, it must be crazy in the school too. Which brings us to one of the top 3 funniest moments of this entire show, which I just need to show you guys this in full.
We should be okay if we run together, Miss Yuzu. Of course I will, because you and her BFFs, Tashina. Let go of me! Damn it, bitch! I said let go!
This scene just will never get old, holy shit. We're now at the beginning of the show again, and as the group makes a barricade, Hisashi starts to die as the bite finally gets to him. Hisashi asking Takashi to lead him to the rail so he can climb over the edge and die without becoming a zombie. Hisashi doesn't get his wish as Rei gets in the way, screaming, crying, mayhaps wanting to throw up, and Rei thinking she's valid in this due to Hisashi getting up. Takashi, understanding what's going on, steps in and bashes Hisashi's head in, ending our black belted warrior's time in this show. Rest in peace, my good boy. You are gone, but never forgotten.
I've got a black belt in karate.
Rei tells Takashi how she'd rather be dead right now and says that Takashi probably hated Hisashi because he was dating Rei, leading Takashi to wanting to leave, and then Rei, of course, begging him not to go and that she's sorry for what she said.
No, Takashi, please don't leave me. If you leave me, who will pay for my Discord Nitro?
As she should be. During all of this, Takagi and Hirano are running around the school, Takagi literally just nailing Hirano for everything per usual, because gaslight gatekeep girl boss. We cut to Rei and Takashi deciding what their next move is. Rei's being to call her dad, who actually answers, letting who he thinks is Takashi on the other end know that the whole city is just fucked before the call cutting out. We now meet Nurse Tits, aka Shizuka, and if you wanted to know why I'm calling her Nurse Tits,
Once they're bitten, they're back.
yeah. And to be honest, I probably should have been paying attention to the plot and all that, but I was just more focused on the fact that they gave this bitch jiggle booby noises and jiggle booty noises. That distracted me from everything. But I'm sure what she was saying wasn't important anyways, so let's continue, shall we? A student dies protecting Nurse Tits, who she admiringly doesn't remember his name at all.
I'm sorry. What was your name again, please?
And she thankfully gets saved from being locale zombie chow by Psycho, who then agrees to mercy kill the sweet simp boy. Poor bastard, may he rest in peace. He died for truly a great cause. So I could hear some more jiggle booby noises. Hirano and Takagi bicker some more before Takagi basically says, "Hey Hirano, you're one of them school shooter types, right? Do something!" As Hirano looks at everything Sai has brought him to, zombies break into the room that they're in and approach Takagi.
Gotcha.
only being stopped due to Hirano making the gun that killed Shinzo Abe. At this point, Hirano has went full school shooter and is so scary Takagi actually listens to him.
Pretty please with sugar on top?
Alright.
Meanwhile, Rei and Takashi use a fire hose to blast away the zombies, which is surprisingly effective, making it so that they're able to get off the roof and discuss whose house they should go to in order to get situated. But truly, that's not important at all. What's actually important is that Takagi and Hirano are running a little experiment to see what gets the zombies' attention. Them realizing the zombies only respond to sound since they can't feel anything hitting them, and they run into walls freely. Hirano would rather just shoot the zombies despite Takagi not liking that, and while begrudgingly trying to get Hirano more ammo, Takagi gets attacked by a zombie. Her sonic scream alerts every other main character that they have to all become one big group now, and as everyone gets to Takagi, they see her in the corner finally fighting back with the drill to kill a zombie. After whacking some zombies and Hirano getting whacked by some boobs, everybody starts to introduce themselves to one another, sending Takagi into a screaming fit, ending with her sobbing over her uniform being covered in blood, and more so wailing over the loss of normality and her sense of superiority due to everyone now being on even ground through trying to survive. The group moves to another room and discusses a plan to get on a bus at the school and drive around to check on everyone's families. Rei gets distracted when seeing the news about the outbreak, and the group watches as a reporter gets attacked by zombies, stunning everyone. The only thing I've ever groomed is my 2 Persian cats. I'm not a groomer. I'm just a loser. The news cuts to audio telling viewers to not leave their houses, and Takagi breaks down all the smart stuff because she's just so smart and so slay. The news is broadcasting all this to make sure that they avoid causing a panic and keep everything under control, despite the fact that martial law is beginning now. Takagi explains how this is a worldwide pandemic event like the Spanish flu due to this not stopping from people dying like the suggested Black Death by Nurse Tits due to the dead coming back to life, and how they don't have time to really wait for the zombies to decompose since that would take months. The group on their way outside saves a bunch of zombie chow, this scene really just showing the group's badassery in full, to be completely honest. They then decide to test Takagi's theory that the zombies can't see, Takashi offering to prove it and doing so by standing in a crowd of them without getting attacked, getting zombies to move when distracted by a thrown shoe, thus a way to get everyone out the front door of the school without needing to fight, which goes really well. Until that happens. While the group makes a break for it, they lose a man to a zombie, and the dude's girlfriend runs back all sobby and sad as Takagi just lays into her for doing that. However, at least Titty Nurse says she understands that choice.
I'd rather die with the person that I love.
As Takagi's yelling about this girl's stupidity, a zombie actually approaches her, but is kept from harming her due to our knight in duct tape armor Hirano going all save you queen on her, which, well.
You rude little otaku! How dare you interrupt me while I'm talking?
Yeah, Takagi might be the biggest bitch in any anime I've ever seen, and truly, go off, queen. As the group gets into the bus, they see a group of students being led by a teacher named Mr. Shido running towards them begging for help. Rei telling Takashi that they really don't need to help the teacher and they should leave him specifically there to die. Shido proves Rei's point immediately as we see him feeding an injured student to the zombies.
I guess that's it for you then.
Yeah, he's pretty fucking awful and only gets worse, but he gets on the bus anyways and Nurse Tits drives away, mowing down zombies and getting them out of there. Now out of the school setting, Shido immediately asks who their leader is and that they need a leader to survive. Rei noting that Takashi is absolutely going to regret helping Shido, and he almost does immediately, as a student with Shido actually doesn't like Takashi for some reason, and they get into it, only being stopped by Rei's little staff. Shido uses this conflict as proof that they need a leader, and especially him since he's qualified due to experience and other bullshit. And of course his group eats that bullshit up right away, and that makes them the majority and therefore Shido the new leader. Rei leaves the bus and Takashi follows, Rei telling Takashi that she refuses to stay there if Shido is there. During this whole bit, a bus is coming speeding towards them, and Takashi and Rei are now separated from the main group, Psycho hopping out to talk to them and figure out where they're gonna meet up. After only being separated for a few minutes, Takashi gets jumped by a zombie biker, which Rei takes care of rather quickly. And where there's a zombie biker, there's most definitely a motorcycle, which the two ride off on and go further into the chaotic city. Now, for some reason, this upcoming episode decides to just do flashbacks like crazy to the last few episodes, like we're doing Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 or some shit. So, for the sake of time, we're just gonna ignore all of that shit and talk about what's only necessary right now. Takashi and Rei are parked talking about the possibility of being rescued and how that's unlikely to happen due to the military not being able to do that or just not being able to spare the men to do that. Rei then brings up how Takashi is being predictably a bummer but honest, and they end up riding off due to zombies making their way over to them. Meanwhile, we see that the bus is now stuck in traffic trying to cross a bridge, Takagi noting that they probably won't be able to be over the bridge before dawn at this rate.
Shut up! Be quiet! You're so disgusting!
My sweet baby boy cannot catch a break. On the bus, they hear zombies getting shot and some NPCs start freaking out, allowing Shido to grossly comfort them and just be gross enough for the main group to now realize that this man is most definitely awful and that Antenna's definitely had a point. We cut back to Rei and Takashi driving through all the destruction and the small specks that remain of what normal life used to be like. Stumbling upon a crashed cop car, Rei decides to raid it despite Takashi being a little bitch boy.
What's wrong with you? This is Armageddon, man up!
10 signs you are a beta male.
Rei finds a gun, and instead of keeping it for herself, she decides to give it to the edgelord and grabs the bullets from a separate gun so they have even more bullets. Basically, all you need to know is, he have gun. Rei and Takashi drive to a gas station, obviously needing gas for their bike, but not being able to get any since they can't pay for it since, broke teenagers, which causes a little bickering, and Takashi then proceeds to raid the cash registers from the gas station to get the money they need, leaving Rei alone until...
Hey, quit squirming!
Yeah, Rei is now a damsel in distress to a man that's admittedly crazy, and despite trying to escape him, he catches her again and proceeds to sexually assault her, which is just fucking foul. Not foul because how dare he, but foul as in this anime might as well be a fucking hentai. Look, if this was like any other dystopian anime that was doing this shit, I would probably look at it and say, they're just trying to show how crazy some people can get and how horrible some things can be for women in dystopian settings, and that sexual assault is prevalent because some people are just fucking awful. But in this fucking anime?
No.
The dude threatens Takashi, telling him he'll kill Rei if he doesn't get the bike, and Takashi disarming himself and all that. Takashi agrees to this by throwing his bat. Do you see where he's going with this? Takashi pumps the gas like a good little cuck and then remembers he has a gun. So he whips that shit out like a samurai sword. I literally think that they forgot what weapon this dude has. Bada bing, bada boom. Rei and Takashi get going, leaving the man to be Zombie Chow, which arguably is a very deserved fate, all things considered. Rei and Takashi continue to ride off into the city as Takashi reminisces on how it's only been a day since the end, and he's already killed a normal person. Normal in big quotes, I don't think there was anything right with that man. We get a completely different view now of people shooting zombies on a tarmac, allowing a flight to take off. One of the snipers has purple hair and boobs, so we obviously know she's important to the plot for...
I've been laying on my boobs all morning. They feel almost numb.
Totally valid plot purposes. Us learning how she's connected with a clip of her cutting to nurse tits in the van. Shido's in the back acting like a fucking messiah, and Takagi and Hirano get into it in a way to explain why airports and all that are still running, thus explaining the beginning scene. Meanwhile, Takashi and Rei are seeing firsthand how chaotic things can get during the end of the world as you know it, driving through the chaos of people shooting at normal people and trying to kill at random. Takashi noting now that they really can't trust anyone. Seeing how chaotic the bridges are, he decides to take a detour by going to a different bridge. And I'm gonna level with you, this next part really doesn't fucking matter, but I think it's funny, so we're just gonna talk about it before we get to Shido on the bus, okay? Zombies are basically flooding the bridge, and the police are trying to keep order so people can't cross by foot anymore, which doesn't stop these shitty-ass teens. So the cops try to stop the teens, and the teens just ignore the cops. And, well...
There must be some mistake. I was just going along to be safe.
Now hear me out, alright? I don't like cops as much as the next dude. However, you cannot tell me that that is not based. Mr. Shido is now basically spending his time manipulating the students that are head over heels for him and calls them one big happy family, noting that Rei and Takashi just weren't cut out for their family since they left. At this point, our main characters on the bus all realize that this man is insane, basically a cult leader, and agree that they need to get the fuck out of there.
I think Mr. Shido is kind of a douchebag.
Psycho mentions that they'll have to give up their sick ride, but everyone would rather do that than be with Mr. Shido, who kinda catches on to there being a divide and tries to tell them that they all need to work together.
Thanks for the offer, but I'm gonna pass, Mr. Shido.
Shido doesn't take this too well and says that the kids can go, of course, because it's a free country, but Nurse Tits needs to stay because there's students on board and they so desperately need her.
Miss Shizuka! Miss Shizuka!
Yeah, I think they'd be better off without her, to be honest. Hirano then shoots Shido, the nail scraping him, saying that he did that on purpose and that Hirano could really just kill Shido for how Shido bullied him, and that he no longer needs to hold back anymore. Basically, Hirano is not only the guy that killed Shinzo Abe, he is also the fat kid from Silent Hill 2, all rolled into one.
He always busted my balls. You fat, disgusting piece of shit!
The group's out of the bus by now, and everyone is kind of regretting that choice and are just trying to survive, and... Wait, do you guys hear something?
So let's ride. Just know they can't catch me.
The bicker couple are back in business. Hirano getting the glizzy from Takashi, Psycho getting whipped around by Takashi on the bike to kill some zombies, Rei flashing her panties. We are back, boys! They catch up and Nurse Tits says that they should crash at her friend's apartment since it's in the area and she has a car. And after Takashi and Nurse Tits go to check it out in a...
Oh, it's been so long since I found something like this.
You're talking about the motorcycle, aren't you?
Really weird little bit. They all head to the house and realize that they can relax a bit due to it being more protected than Supermax. Now at the beginning, I brought up how this anime has like a ton of boob physics, panty shots, overall lewdness and all that. And I do have to say that this episode just cranks that shit up to 11. Because the majority of scenes with the girls in this episode consist of them being in a bathroom, in the bathtub, or taking a shower.
So what? We all just had to take a bath at the same time?
I will let your mind fill in the blanks there. This is the episode that gives hentai with no sex vibes, and I don't know about you, but I personally would rather not fuck around and find out with YouTube's demonetization and age restrictions, so just to play it safe, we're just gonna go and cut to the boys vibing and doing just boy things. Like breaking open a safe full of guns.
Who is she? Sarah fucking Palin?
Hirano is just absolutely losing it, spooking Takashi a bit, the boys loading bullets and Hirano giving a backstory as to why he knows everything about guns.
When I went to America...
Takashi is now looking at the lockdown site through some binoculars, and we see that zombies are breaking through due to less people being there, and upper management for the cops tell the other cops to maintain order no matter what. Hirano gets the binoculars next, and Takashi puts on the TV showing a group of demonstrators saying the police are killing citizens at random, which...
I didn't say you can shoot!
No, they're not. And it's captured by a reporter that a cop, after telling a demonstrator to leave due to danger and the demonstrator just not fucking listening, shoots the demonstrator to maintain order. It's during all this chaos that we get Nurse Tits jumping on Takashi and trying to smooch him and Hirano, which...
I want to be top.
Oh, okay.
You want to do it raw?
All the girls are wearing skimpy clothes, and we see Rei acting the same way as Nurse Tits, and Psycho making a little snacky in an apron and thong because totally practical.
It's okay. I hadn't noticed a titty. A thing! We should be prepared. They could come attack.
Rei and Takashi talk for a bit, leading Rei to calling him boring, and Takashi saying that's probably why she dumped him. And Rei just kind of goes off comparing Takashi to Hisashi, which leads to Takashi rightfully breaking and saying that he's dead, not coming back, and that they need to stop talking about Hisashi if they want to live. Now this was just so hot that Rei has to cut him off, pull him down, and get all blushy, and then lead us to not seeing if the bickering bastards kiss. Meanwhile, back with the actually important event of martial law, a cop directs a dude to run a bulldozer into a crowd of zombies and real people. The commander that was seen earlier killing a demonstrator now killing himself during all of this. We then cut back to Takashi telling Rei to stop, and we have Hirano show Takashi how the zombies started coming and they just kept coming. Fed to the rules, they gotta hit the ground running, cause they are now absolutely surrounded. Psycho is now on watch with the boys, telling Takashi that since they react to every sound, they can't just leave guns blazing and can't save everyone. They need to stay hidden since being manly isn't enough to survive. It's at this point Takashi witnesses a father and daughter get swarmed. They run to a house to get help, and the door opens after the dad threatens the people inside. So obviously...
Thank God for you.
Oh, yeah, so the boys come out guns blazing, Takashi running out the building to hop on his bike and go get the child, plus the dog that's there as well. How I forgot that there's a dog, I have no idea, but there is a dog protecting the child now. Hirano's providing support from above, allowing Takashi to get to the child, and they then host a mini funeral for her dad since they clearly gotta go and don't have time for her to do the normal thing you do when your loved one dies. Meanwhile, Takagi wakes up the nurse so they can get their car packed and everything. Psycho's saying that this needs to be done while the zombies are distracted and do it quietly to not draw attention to themselves and get swarmed. We get a couple little bits where we worry about them, but I mean the dude's the main character who has a child and a dog, so he's fine. You have no reason to worry about his safety right now, or truly ever. We then see Hirano and Psycho riding on the top of the car just ramming these zombies down, and Takashi running over and jumping onto the truck. Time passing, and Takashi thinking about how they've made it yet another day, but they still need to get to their families. And that might be a hard thing to do considering the fact that, I don't know, the whole world is currently falling apart at the moment. Truly, with the US president being bitten and his staff wanting him to launch a fucking nuke to blow up other countries so the US won't get nuked? Yeah, things are not looking pretty good for our main characters over there, but hey!
Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.
At least they're having fun while they can, I guess. They finally get to land and realize that there's no one around. Us getting to see Rei be a bit jealous over Psycho drooling in Takashi's lap, which totally isn't hinting at there going to be a little romance there at all. The girls decide to get dressed and we have Hirano tell us all about the girl, Arisu, and how he's named the dog Zero. Hirano also explains how to use the gun that he's just given Takashi since Takashi isn't a gun guy.
Hello and welcome to Hirano's Gun Safety 101. Step number 1. Get a gun. Step number 2.
And once the girls are done changing, we see that Rei also has a gun and knows that Hirano will teach her how to use it. The boys provide cover then as Nurse Tits drives the Humvee up the side of the bank. Insert woman driver joke here since Hirano almost fucking dies from a car of all things.
Oh, these zombies, and I'm gonna get killed by an Asian woman driver.
The plan is to go to Takagi's house first since it's the closest, and Rei and Takashi, while sitting on a car, note that they haven't seen a zombie since, and they get to be all chill and calm and casual before seeing zombies per usual. I don't know why they expected them to not be there, but of course they're here. Nurse Tits, driving through the zombies, doesn't notice a wire in front of them, and because she's such a ditzy little character who can't drive a big car, slams Rei off the car and onto the ground to be surrounded by zombies. Everyone jumps to try to protect Rei, Takashi being absolutely useless with a gun, Hirano shooting out of the roof of the car to provide cover as Takashi proceeds to fuck up even more and drop his ammo. Psycho bursts out and starts beating people with her stick to buy him some time, and since Takashi realizes that he's fucked up completely, we arguably get the best absolute S-tier scene in any anime ever. Remember that gun that Rei had at the beginning? Well, Takashi is about to put that to use in the best way possible, so without further ado, I'm just gonna let it play out because, it's fucking wonderful.
Oh yeah, sorry. Hirano, what about this?
Flick the lever in front of the trigger guard. You can disengage the safety that way. After that, pull the slide to the right. You're ready to shoot.
best part is that Takashi missed all of those fucking shots. Things start to look a bit hopeless for the group since Takashi is such a bad shot, he decides to use the gun he started with as a bat to beat the zombies. Saiko doing the same thing with her stick as both of them try to draw the zombies away from the group by hitting stuff far away from the group, trying but struggling to keep the zombies' attention. It really starts to look like the end for our group until a group of special forces comes and saves them, it being revealed that the woman calling the shots is Takagi's mother. Takagi, realizing that the others won't be able to get to them, she yells that she'll be waiting for them at her house on the hill. Takashi and Saiko looking pretty badass as Takashi thinks about how invincible he feels currently. And badass they are indeed as they steal something reminiscent of a caged ATV to get to Takagi's house faster. Takashi driving the ATV into the water since it's like one of those things in Wisconsin that can go on land and water. But hey, it's all for the wet top scene that we get afterwards. The two are on a little plot of land in the middle of the river, talking, flirting, and Takashi asks Saiko if she's ever had a boyfriend or at least a crush before. Saiko saying, of course, and how she thought it was love. They get going again, and Takashi decides to drive the ATV into a fountain to lure the zombies towards that due to the noise, allowing them to continue on foot with very little trouble. Of course, Saiko is absolutely game to beat them so they don't have to use a gun and draw attention to themselves until she sees zombie children. They get somewhere safe and Takashi asks Saiko what happened since she's now all slumped over and mopey, and after some time, Saiko tells him that she started to think about the fear, because when Takashi asked her if she's ever had a crush on anyone, she believes she doesn't have the right to tell her crush that she has a crush on him since she almost killed a man. However, this is arguably the most valid case of defense that I have ever seen. Saiko talks about how 4 years ago she was attacked and started to beat her attacker with her practice sword, and despite it being pointed out as self-defense, she admits she enjoyed beating the attacker because she got to let all of her rage out. Realizing she had the upper hand, she only pretended to be terrified of her attacker, saying she beat her attacker till they were bloody and all bones. Once again, proving the time-old belief that purple-haired anime bitches are in fact psychotic. Takashi points out that he's had similar feelings after all this has happened, and Saiko points out that she was like this prior and has only gotten worse now. Takashi doing the absolute best thing possible to calm her down, which is grabbing her hand, moving in closer, and cock-blocking the viewers from yet another smooch. Because there is no kissing allowed in this Christian Minecraft server, but whatever the fuck this is absolutely okay. Once the two start leaving, they notice zombies approaching them, making Saiko freeze up, saying she can't fight. Takashi once again doing the best thing possible right now, and going behind Saiko and groping her. Takashi gives a little motivational speech about how he needs her, and how he doesn't care that she killed someone and all that, but all I could really focus on was how he's literally squeezing the shit out of her tit like it's a fucking stress ball. Saiko goes psycho and slices and dices all the zombies up, thinking about how she's enjoying doing this and how this is the real her. And yes! What the fuck is this anime? We cut to the duo walking arm in arm to Takagi's house, Arisu running up to greet them, and Takashi thinking about how he's accepted Saiko's darkness because he needs her to be that way, since the more psychotic she is, the more likely they are to survive. Couldn't give the creepy man the same sentiment though. Interesting. Speaking of creepy, we now see Takashi holding Rei while she's naked, the nurse coming into the room with goopy hands covered in stuff to be rubbed on Rei's back due to the titty matrix incident, and how she got every bone in her back broken. Afterwards, Takashi gets kicked out of the room. He hears Takagi yell and asks her what's wrong, Takagi walking away not wanting to talk about it, and her mom apologizing to Takashi for drawing him into the discussion, noting that he's probably used to Takagi yelling like that since he's known Takagi since they were small. And the mother and Takashi then get to talking. Meanwhile, Harana's looking at guns, and Takagi comes up to him telling that he should enjoy it all while he can, since shit's gonna get pretty difficult soon, due to them needing to secure electricity, water, and just basic necessities. This is intercut with Takagi's mom, who we're just gonna call Mommy for no reason at all, talking to Takashi about the same thing, noting that they're eventually going to be taking buses and bussing out people who can survive outside of the house. Harana gets talked down to by an adult and apologizes, Takagi telling him to cut that shit out since adults need to start treating them as equals due to everything going on, noting that they'll need to talk to Takashi. Meanwhile, Mommy tells Takashi that she needs him to convince Takagi that what they're planning on doing is the right choice. Our group gets together to discuss if they'll be able to move forward as a group, and while we get to hear a bit about Takagi's mommy issues and see that get stopped by Takashi doing what he does best with women that are angry, we then get to see Takagi's dad roll up like the president, while looking like a standard anime villain. Daddy Dearest rolls in his bestie who got infected and proceeds to execute him.
So sorry, my baby is just...
It's at this point that Hirano decides to be a little bitch boy and critique using a sword since that's what Daddy Dearest used. Psycho disagrees with this statement, of course, because... I mean, just fucking look at her. Hirano decides to run off like a little bitch, us seeing him later getting yelled at by adults for hogging guns and not being willing to give them up. Daddy Dearest then approaches him and allows Hirano to explain himself. And since Hirano can't do that because he's now a bumbling fool in the face of a pure Sigma male Chad, Takashi steps in and talks about how skilled and great Hirano is with a gun, Takagi chiming in as well with how he's been protecting her.
He's the one who's been protecting me. He did your job.
And you think all's well that ends well here until you see this fucking troglodyte of a child outside on the phone with Shido. Seeing clips of Shido students being lewd and leaving us knowing that something is definitely up with that vile-ass man. Shido talks about how the world is tainted, but the young students with him are angels that he wants to cleanse his sins through being with, noting that their tender touch can redeem him and all that fantastically provocative shit as the student is dying from being locked out due to talking back to Shido. The student's a dude, of course, too, because truly, what use does Shido have for male students when he has all these young women drooling all over him? Now at this point, shit's getting a little bit weird. Like, we're a day or two into the apocalypse, and for some reason, there's some people that insist that this is a government job. The government's lying and all that, and, you know, this is coming to a head at Takagi's house. No joke, this group that's formed at Takagi's house claims that the Takagis are trying to control them with violence, when these literally living dead bastards that are very clearly not sick but are walking dead corpses are apparently suffering and that they will not participate in the killing of the zombies.
That's right, yeah! We absolutely repudiate violent dominance! She's a Nazi!
Hirano sympathizes with the group since they clearly just don't want to live in reality and be in denial about what's really going on.
Are you trying to pick a fight with me, you fat ass?
Takashi actually agrees with Hirano regarding all this, and Hirano and Takagi say that due to that and how Takashi's just built different, he'd actually be an obvious choice for their group's leader. Takashi thinks about this, and Rei comes in and says that they've all been relying on him, so duh, he'd be the first option. But Takashi doesn't think so, and states how anyone else would be a better fit. Despite this, Rei says that Takashi is different now, because he's clearly a fighter now more than he was before, going further into it by saying that she made a mistake hurting him, and breaking up with him, and that she loves him and she'll never hurt him again.
I don't know if I should kiss you right now or smack the hell out of you.
Time passes and Takashi is talking to Daddy Dearest about wanting to find his father and how his mom was teaching when the outbreak occurred. He talks about how since Rei's dad is a cop, they can get more information that way, and that he'll find everyone and be back before they start bussing people out of the house, and if he isn't back, they can leave without him. Psycho chimes in on wanting to go with, saying that she can help, and before Rei can say anything, her attention gets diverted. Meanwhile, a van has arrived at the house, and students beg to be let in needing help, and being let in for totally normal reasons, thus allowing Mr. Shido to enter the Takagi safe zone. Can you guess what got Rei's attention? We get some backstory and find out that Shido is the son of a representative whose father was a bit of a fucking prick who made his wife kill herself, and clearly that's why Shido acts like that. We also learned that a congressman asked Shido to make Rei repeat a grade because her dad was meddling in something, this being a way to teach him a lesson. Again,
Mr. Shido.
Can you guess what got Rei's attention? Daddy Dearest, due to everything Rei says, which is basically all that, encourages her to kill him if she wants to, despite his association with Shido's father. Psycho prevents Takashi from stopping her, letting the choice to not kill him be her own.
He's not even worth killing.
Just fucking hate this world.
and these human worms.
Joe and the students then are rightfully banned from the Minecraft server. Daddy Dear is saying that these students are infected by Shitto's evil. Now, remember how a bit ago I brought up how the US was possibly thinking of launching a little nuke preemptively to, not get nuked themselves and all that? Well...
Firing one.
Yeah, that's a thing. And it's just a continuous thing for the end of the world right now, as we see a ship just not shooting a nuke down because everybody on board is a zombie, and we see that the missile that the ship didn't shoot down is headed towards our heroes in Japan. We cut to Nurse Tits finally remembering her friend's phone number, calling the purple-haired sniper we saw a bit ago named Rika, and as Rika asks where they are, the power gets cut out with a blast in the sky being shown on Rika's side, as well as on our group's side. Takagi has an idea of what just happened, and has her suspicion confirmed as she gets Rei to check her sight, and Rei not being able to see the dot anymore. Takagi tells everyone how that had to be a high-altitude nuclear explosion, due to the electromagnetic pulse that clearly fried everything from phones to Rei's sight. However, Takagi points out how some cars might be okay if they don't have a computer chip in them. Which means, simply put, somebody is not having a good time right now, and I support this bad time.
What's wrong with these goddamn brakes? Where's the emergency brake?
Mr. Shito, in front of you!
Huh?
Unfortunately, the bastard survived the crash, but judging by all the zombies, he probably won't be alive for long. With all electronics out, zombies advance on the Takagi house gate, Daddy Dearest ordering the gate to be closed at the cost of whoever is outside of the place. Mommy goes all mommy to give Takagi a gun, entrusting that Hirano will show her how to use it.
Yes, Mama! Oh, what's not what I meant? I meant yes, ma'am! Yes, Mama!
And then the zombies finally breach, and chaos ensues. Survivors are brought into the house, and Daddy Dearest makes the call to have the house next door act as their base. However, he tells Takashi to head out for his parents and Hirano to protect his daughter. Said daughter getting slapped by her mom for speaking out against this. I don't know what it is about just slapping women and yoinking them around and making them listen, but yeah, no, that's the only takeaway I got from this anime. Mommy Dearest stating that she's leaving Takagi because she has to, not because she wants to. The group goes forth as the parents begin their fight against the zombies and learn that the Humvee is thankfully EMP proof so they can drive it. It just needs to get fixed a bit first, so the group decides to make a last stand at the garage to protect their car as it's getting fixed. We get a glimpse of all the action that's going on and finally see everyone load into the car and get going, passing Shitto's fucked up van on the way out in style. Mommy and Daddy Dearest know that Takagi's going to be alright despite the fact that they may not have been the best parents, because she learned how to stay alive from them. While driving away, Rei notes that everyone's okay for now, Takagi asking everyone to not say anything to her and Hirano just telling Takagi to keep an eye out. Takagi notes how the engine sounds a bit strange, but they all decide to keep driving so they can find Takashi and Rei's parents. Psycho points out that there's a highway ahead, so they decide to take it, and as they notice that the highway is swarming with zombies, Takashi looks at it through a rather optimistic lens.
Let's end this little road trip. With a fucking bang.
We see that the picture board at the end of every episode is actually a real board. As the gang walks past it, since their car is 50 shades of fucked up at this point. Takashi talks about how you always wonder how things are going to end, and you make up scenarios about it. But everything is wrong because life, even among the dead, keeps going. As they stare at a massive shopping mall, the season coming to an end with the quote from T.S. Eliot's The Hollow Men. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. Which arguably goes way too hard and is harder than this anime deserves. And that is the end of the one and only season of High School of the Dead. It did, however, get a little OVA that I will not be covering because I like my channel existing on this hell site. Seriously, it is just fan service, and that's its only purpose. So as I said at the beginning, this anime is really just a little so bad it's good little nightmare, because truly, you can just watch it senselessly and you don't have to pay that close attention in order to get any sort of enjoyment out of it like you do some modern anime. There's plenty of funny bits in the anime, and there's always plenty of shit to make fun of it for as well. The action is also pretty decent. It's not even on the same level as more recent favorites of mine, or even some older favorites, but it's there. Kinda. I mean, they censor more of the gore with their action than like anything else. Some scenes cutting out entirely to leave you guessing, while they take any chance they can to show some panties. Yeah, I would definitely be lying if I said that action was the absolute draw into this. I mean, it's boobs and zombies with a little bit of action sprinkled in there, but again, a teenage boy recommended that I watch this. He most certainly was not watching it for Hirano shooting a gun occasionally. Basically, if you want a serious anime with like good action in it, I would never, ever recommend this to you. Because again, it is tagged horror and also action, and believe me when I say that those are the bare minimum tags in it. This should really be tagged horny for no goddamn reason. If you can handle an insane amount of tits, panty shots, and overall lewdness with a hint of action, like we are talking Le Croix levels of hint of something here, then yeah, this is probably going to be right up your alley, and I can easily say that this is for you. This is also going to be for you if you want something to laugh at and just have a good time with, because every now and then you need something cheesy and just for shits and giggles. But I can say that despite this being a favorite of mine back in the day, and despite how much I enjoyed making fun of it when I was watching it and enjoyed the funny bits in it, I do have to say any sense of action and horror that I enjoyed in this when I was younger was very heavily overshadowed by panty shots and titty physics in like every shot possible. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I am not looking forward to editing this later, so good luck to me editing in the future. Godspeed. Mind you, when I... Nah, not that one. Yeah, this one. Mind you, when I say that, I mean it. Like, panty shots, boob physics, and lewdness are things that I'm not the biggest stickler about in anime. I rewatched Rosario Vampire in college with some friends, and we knew that going into it, it was going to be campy and lewd as fuck because of the harem tag, and we just had a blast with it because we knew what to expect. But arguably, this was just a lot in comparison, given the fact that High School of the Dead is tagged as action and horror.
Doll, you just don't understand the sheer complexity and the meaning of it. Besides, this anime isn't meant for women to watch. It's very clearly meant to be enjoyed by men who can understand it in shoes before I fucking get the belt.
I even decided to look at the manga for comparison's sake, and in all honesty, while it's very, titillating, to say the least, and decently shot for shot with the anime, to say the most, there's a few scenes where the anime added more fan service to it, such as the changing scene on the bank, the whole beginning bit with Takagi bitching Takashi out and then sneaking in some shots of her boobs, and I kid you not, even the notable titty matrix scene isn't a thing in the manga. You know, the thing that the anime is literally most known for? Not even a figment of the manga's imagination. So yeah, they still somehow managed to add bits of fan service in there to make this even more horny than it was written as, except the bathhouse chapter. That one was like ultra horny even in the manga. I will also say that the manga is a bit more on the gory side. You actually do get that action and horror genre tag fulfilled. So honestly, if you can stand the fan service, you might get a bit more out of the manga than the anime. But overall, as much as I have my qualms with how horny this anime is, I still can't deny that I enjoyed rewatching it a good bit. It has some really stupid humor, funny bits, and it's just really senseless fun to watch in all honesty. Yes, the amount of panty shots and all that does take away from the action and horror for me, and might do the same for anyone else, but that doesn't negate that it is still at its core just so bad it's good. The characters all have something that makes them interesting, more or less. And while they're tropey as hell, it's like so extreme that it's funny and adds to my enjoyment of it. Seriously, Takagi being a massive bitch is just my favorite part about this show. It's held up stylistically for what it sets out to do, which is basically be accurate to the manga, which can confirm it is. And it's held up in terms of not being fucking hideous, so there's that. Plot? There's really no plot. Just bits of action to get you from point A to point B with some panty shots thrown into the mix. But there's the unique bits of humor found within the story that make it worth sitting through, whether it's meant to be funny or if it's just so insanely dumb it's funny.
Hells yeah! Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
And I mean, it clearly had an impact on zombie-related media for a while, considering there's not one, but 2 outfits for Juliet Starling in Lollipop Chainsaw that make her look like Ray and Psycho. I'm gay! And for those reasons alone, I think that's what makes High School of the Dead worth at least one watch, even if it's just to make fun of it like I have, and will probably do again in the future. Now, as I said earlier, High School of the Dead did only get 1 season for their anime, and despite it ending on a cliffhanger, there has been no talks of a season 2 coming anytime soon. And while typically I would actually recommend for you to go read the manga and all that and to enjoy that as a way to get the rest of the story fulfilled, I can't even do that with this. I unfortunately actually have to tell you that the manga will never be completed because the writer for it actually passed away in 2017, I believe, and the illustrator has flat out said that he doesn't feel comfortable working on it without the writer because they would only be able to complete the story together. So High School of the Dead is just more than likely going to be incomplete and never have any sort of end to it, with the manga and the anime alike. The reasoning for it is obviously very valid, and I commend Shoji Sato for sticking to that and having that dedication to the story as much as I have my qualms with it. But at the end of the day, this so bad it's good anime that's more senseless than action and horror-packed as advertised has unfortunately an ending more accurate to the T.S. Eliot quote than the show itself. High School of the Dead as an anime and manga, whether one would like to admit it or not, has ended. Not with a bang, but a whimper. But big booba, so. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching my little video on me rewatching the boob anime and realizing that it's so bad it's good despite my critiques of the booba in it. I will admit, I am still a little bit sad that we're probably never ever gonna get a season 2 because from what I did see, the manga actually kind of kicks up in terms of like horror and blood and gore and all that, and I would have loved to see what they would do with that. Like, would they lean into it? Would they still make it a little bit skeezy and all that? We'll never know. It's not gonna happen. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, feel free to let me know. I personally have enjoyed making this. I loved rewatching this. It was a good time, and I can already think of another anime I would love to talk about. No, it is not Rosario Vampire, it's something else. So it's probably gonna happen eventually anyways, but let me know if you'd like to see it a little bit sooner. Also, hope you guys like the new setup. It is called I'm at my boyfriend's house. We hung up the green screen, and I realized that my mic stand would not reach over here. So I have to hold the mic like I'm a fucking impromptu karaoke singer. It's very good, 10 out of 10, love doing this. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this little congealed mess of a video where I retrospectively look at the big booby anime. I will see you guys next time with something that is not boob and panty shot filled, probably. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye!